Another reason why I knew this was sent by a white woman is because this is mean girl energy from head to toe. And a trait, unfortunately, that tends to reside in women only is this unharbored resentment that women with low self-esteem, insecure women have towards women who intimidate them. We all know this, right? Truly beautiful, amazing women know two things to be true. Number one, and I'm gonna just say it, the women that choose to hate on us, whether it be around us, so close proximity, or on the internet or whatever, they're never better looking than us, ever, right? By societal standards, they're never better looking. They never have a situation that you stop and think, damn, I wish I was that person. Man, what it would be like to trade places with that person. Never. So ladies, stop doing this type of behavior because you out yourself for the insecure coward with low self-esteem that you portray yourself to be and that you clearly are. We see right through this behavior, and it makes me feel sadness and pity for you. I'm sorry that you don't love yourself like I love myself, okay? I've accepted my flaws, my insecurities, my imperfections, my failures, my shortcomings, whatever. I have accepted all of them because they make me who I am, and I wouldn't change not a damn thing about myself. Amen, hallelujah. Number two, truly beautiful, amazing women understand that there's room for all of us to be beautiful in our own right, to shine in our own ways. We're not concerned about how another woman is shining or how beautiful she is because we're too busy shining on our own. You know what I mean? But also, it's not a competition, right? That mindset is never there for us because we don't even view it that way, because we understand that everyone has potential to be the best possible version of themselves if they can get over this type of behavior. You know, like I said, I wouldn't say I was super close to this person, but we talked all the time. And had I known she felt this way, I wish she would have came to me so we could have talked about it. You know, because we were someone, you know, people that we talked all the time, if she saw something on my social media that upset her, I wish she would have came to me so we could have talked about it instead of her doing all this and causing all the things that happened afterwards. White people don't know adversity. They don't, I'm sorry. And that's why they continue to act like this, because God forbid they try to put themselves in another person's shoes, specifically a black or a brown person's shoes, right? They could never. And that's why they can't even fathom how we could possibly feel the way that we feel right now. Now, to call me an obese adult and that I'm glamorizing adult obesity, like that was a little out of pocket, because girl, you and I both know I'm not obese, and if I was, what's it to you? You know what I mean? But like I said, this person spent too much time on my personal website, my social media and everything. And on my website I have a merch tab, which I'm not ready to launch my merch yet. It's part of my Rebel with a Cause initiative, right? Everything that I do is a form of rebellion, and it coincides with not displacing my anger, right? Because my anger can be constructive. As long as I can put my anger towards something that is positive and that progresses me forward, I'ma allow it, right? Same thing with my natural rebellious nature, okay? You know, when I was younger and I couldn't manage my anger and I was being a rebel just because, and I was being such a menace, like I got tired of my own stuff, right? Like, and as I've grown older, I realized that I love that rebellious spirit that I possess. I love that I'm naturally rebellious. Sorry, you know, I'm not going to change that aspect about myself. However, let's use that in a way that is constructive, Lauren. So part of the reason why I think this person was saying that I was glamorizing adult obesity and she called me a fat bitch is because on one of these shirts, I have fat bitch, right? On the other shirt, it says, plus size, you mean fun size. So this was my way of joining the body positivity movement. It was also my way of sticking it to patriarchy, right? So I was killing two birds with one stone. On my YouTube specifically, I have a video called the GLP-1 Hate is Force, where I talk about my own weight loss journey with PCOS using a GLP-1 and how I caloric deficited myself into an eating disorder. Yes, this is the first time that I'm actually talking about that. Like, there was a point in my life where I was eating so little because I was coming from a place like from the fitness industry, right? Because the fitness industry shoves down your throat that if you want to lose weight, you got to eat in a caloric deficit. So when I wasn't losing weight, I would eat even more in a caloric deficit, so on and so forth, to the point where I was passing out at the gym. I had so low, such low energy. I passed out at the park. I would pass out at I was miserable, pursuing Eurocentric standards of beauty, pursuing this idea that thinness would give me all the things in my life that I wanted. I finally realized that, you know what? It's not worth it. And I'm beautiful and amazing anyway. So I put fat bitch on a shirt, and I'm going to make a whole other video about this when I'm ready to launch, my Rebel with a Cause initiative, which is like my statement tees and everything like that. I have a few that I'm adding currently, but I put fat bitch on a shirt specifically because it was kind of after this whole ordeal in my life where, I was struggling with I don't like to call it with like an eating disorder because that's not where my intention was, but it is what it is. And it was kind of, like I said, just owning my insult, because in my mind it gives it less power, but also it's the first thing a man wants to call you when you don't give him the necessary attention that he was wanting, when you don't give into his advances. That's the first thing, I don't care what size you are, that comes out of a dusty, crusty, musty man's mouth. Oh, you're a fat bitch. I didn't want you anyway. You fat. You're this, you're that, whatever. And I'm just like, boy, bye. You know what I mean? So I hope you feel like shit, because I'm not glamorizing adult obesity. I'm sticking it to patriarchy, as well as in my own rebellious nature, like I said, natural rebellion, just joining the body positivity movement. My other one, plus size, you mean fun size. Do us adults have to have a conversation about that? Yeah, we can have a side chat about that. I'm not going to get into that, but I mean, the proof is in the pudding. Plus size, you mean fun sized. So I told myself to keep the saltiness to a minimum, to keep, the insults or whatever, because if I do the same type of behavior that she did back, that I'm no better than her, right? But one thing that I was a little bit salty about was her saying that I wasn't an artist until I did shows and gigs. I call myself an artist because I've been singing since before I could talk. I've performed on stages. I have music on every major music platform, right? Apple, Spotify, Amazon, look me up, Lauren Lajas, that's my stage name. My stage name is my name, okay? I just wrote a book and I've sold copies of that book, okay? I'm literally releasing a new song in a few weeks, okay? And I'm putting myself in a position to work on an album, okay? I have 2 binders full of songs that I've written that no one has even heard of yet. And that's why I call myself an artist. I'm just gonna say it, and this is where the saltiness might come. If mommy and daddy still pays your bills, keep your opinions to yourself when it comes to the journeys of others. If you live at home and you don't have to pay as many bills, if you have a significant other who's financially in a position to hold you down where you're out pursuing your dreams, I need you to also keep your opinions to yourselves on the paths of others. Because what you guys have is a luxury. It's a privilege. It is something that most people do not have. So you have the rest of us trying to achieve the same damn things on our own. Then there's people like me who have no support system, no nothing. Everything falls onto my shoulders. And I have grown so much in so many different ways. And one of the biggest ways is that I've learned to not hold myself to imaginary deadlines, right? I've learned to not cause myself grief over things that I can't control. I brought up my ADHD, but I had like an intervention, a mini intervention like a few years ago, where the most important people in my life sat me down and was like, hey, like, you have brilliant ideas, but you jump from idea to idea, project to project, and you never finish them, and we would just like to see you just stick to something and see it through. And that was life-changing advice, because that's what I do now, not only because of time, But because of money, because of resources, I still have to keep a roof over my head and food in my fridge and the lights on, right? On top of that, I'm trying to front my own music career. I wrote a book, but my books aren't free. Promotion isn't free. I'm starting a podcast, and videographers, photographers, everything that I do in this business costs me hundreds of dollars. It's not even like tens at this point, it's hundreds, thousands of dollars. And so I will do what I can do. What's meant for me will be there tomorrow, and next week, next month, next year. I will not cause myself grief in the moment thinking about that. And one thing that I think I need to say is that if you're that type of person who has things handed to you on a silver platter or has those resources that most of us don't, and you're still not leaps and bounds ahead of me, then what are you doing? A great philosopher named Sophia Petrillo from the Golden Girls once said, "Before you cast judgment, look at the merchandise you're trying to move." I mean that in every way imaginable. Before you want to cast judgment on someone else's appearance, look at your appearance first. Before you want to cast judgment or voice unnecessary opinions that no one asked for on the journey of someone else, look at your life. Do some reflection on where you're going, what you're doing, right? And if you still, at the end of the day, can say that you're better, that you're doing more, that you're doing this and that, whatever, I guarantee you, people like that don't do things like this email. They don't berate and attack people that did nothing to them because they are too busy building their lives. They're too busy being happy with who they are to ever look at anyone else and have this much time. Okay? Like, I'm just gonna say that. But y'all, stay tuned for this developing story because it gets better. It gets better. Brown people, you know where I'm going with this, but it gets better.